Hey everyone, Casey here. We all love to travel, experience new cultures, see the world. But what about those places that are off limits? Today we're diving into the top 10 countries where Americans are currently not allowed to visit. Some might surprise you. We're talking political tensions, ongoing conflicts, even straight-up bans. Get ready to explore the restricted side of travel. Alright, let's kick things off with a country that's been making headlines for decades. North Korea. This isolated nation, often dubbed the Hermit Kingdom, has some of the strictest travel restrictions on the planet. For Americans, forget about booking a casual vacation. Tourism is extremely limited and you'll need special permission from the government to even set foot in the country. We're talking about a highly controlled environment, folks. Think propaganda posters, limited internet access, and constant surveillance. It's not your typical tourist destination, that's for sure. Next up, we're heading to the Middle East, to a country steeped in history and culture. Iran. Now, the US and Iran haven't exactly been on the best of terms lately. No formal diplomatic relations means things are a bit complicated for American travelers. Getting a visa is tricky, and you'll likely need to travel with an organized tour group. It's not impossible, but it definitely requires some extra effort and planning. The US government also advises against travel to Iran due to the risk of arbitrary detention. Definitely not a situation you want to find yourself in. Our next destination is a country tragically caught in the grip of a devastating civil war, Syria. For obvious reasons, this is a huge no-go zone for travelers, especially Americans. The US State Department has issued its highest level of travel advisory, urging citizens to avoid all travel to Syria. The risks are simply too high. We're talking about active conflict zones, widespread violence, and the constant threat of terrorism. It's heartbreaking to see the devastation that war has brought to this once beautiful country. Our journey through restricted countries takes us now to Afghanistan, a nation grappling with political instability and security concerns. After the US withdrawal and the Taliban's return to power, the situation remains uncertain. The US government advises against all travel to Afghanistan due to the risk of terrorism, civil unrest, and kidnapping. It's a volatile environment, and the safety of foreign nationals cannot be guaranteed. The future of tourism in Afghanistan remains uncertain as the country navigates this new chapter. Our next stop is Libya, a North African nation still reeling from the aftermath of a revolution and ongoing civil unrest. The security situation in Libya is extremely volatile, with armed groups vying for control and frequent clashes erupting. The US government strongly advises against all travel to Libya, citing the risk of kidnapping, terrorism, and being caught in the crossfire. It's a dangerous destination, and traveling there would be incredibly risky. Hopefully one day Libya can find peace and stability, but for now, it remains off limits. We're heading south now to Venezuela, a country facing a complex political and economic crisis. The US and Venezuela have had strained relations for years, and the US government has issued a Level 4 travel advisory urging citizens not to travel there. The risks include crime, civil unrest, and arbitrary detention. The situation in Venezuela is a reminder that political instability can have a huge impact on travel and safety. Our journey takes us next to Yemen, a country ravaged by a brutal civil war that has created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. The US government has issued its highest level of travel advisory for Yemen, urging citizens to avoid all travel to the country. The risks are simply too high: armed conflict, terrorism, kidnapping, you name it. It's a heartbreaking situation, and the focus right now needs to be on providing humanitarian aid and finding a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Our next destination is Somalia, a country located in the Horn of Africa that has been plagued by instability, conflict, and terrorism for decades. The US government strongly advises against all travel to Somalia, citing the high risk of terrorism, kidnapping, and piracy. Somalia has been a hub for piracy in the Indian Ocean, targeting commercial vessels and disrupting international shipping lanes. While efforts have been made to combat piracy, it still poses a significant threat to maritime security in the region. Our penultimate stop takes us to South Sudan, the world's newest nation, but one that has been ravaged by civil war and conflict since its independence in 2011. The situation in South Sudan remains extremely volatile, with various armed groups vying for control and widespread violence affecting civilians. The U.S. government strongly advises against all travel to South Sudan due to the high risk of being caught in the crossfire, kidnapped, or injured in violence. And finally, we arrive at our last destination, Cuba, an island nation just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. Now, Cuba is a bit of a unique case. It's not that Americans are completely banned from traveling there, but there's a long-standing U.S. embargo in place that complicates things. Tourism to Cuba for U.S. citizens is technically restricted, but there are exceptions. You can travel for specific reasons like family visits, cultural exchanges, or humanitarian work. It's a complex issue with a long history, but hopefully one day, travel restrictions between the U.S. and Cuba will ease, allowing for more cultural exchange and understanding. So, those are the 10 countries where American travelers face restrictions. From political tensions to ongoing conflicts, the reasons vary, but the message is clear. These destinations are off limits for now. Remember, travel advisories are there for a reason. Always check the latest information from the U.S. State Department before you book your trip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more travel insights and updates. Stay safe and informed, and I'll see you in the next video.